Voilà. All right, good afternoon. We're delighted to be joined by Jean-Pierre Lacroix, who, as you know, is the Undersecretary General for Peace Operations, and you also know that he just returned from travels to Lebanon and Israel, and as promised, he's here to brief you. We have him for a limited amount of time, so Jean-Pierre will have some opening remarks, and then we'll take a few questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Steph. Very good afternoon. Thank you for joining. And yes, as Stefan just said, I'm back. I was from last week. I was in Lebanon and then Israel. Just briefly, what I did, I met with Lebanese political leaders. I met with the true contributing countries to UNIFIL. Of course, I met with my colleagues from the UN and of course UNIFIL, as well as colleagues from the other part of the UN presence in Lebanon. I also met with the senior officials in Israel, from Foreign Affairs as well as the IDF. I went to Nakura and met with colleagues there, and of course when I was in Israel, then I also went to up north. So briefly, my objectives were actually three of them. One was express solidarity and support to our UNIFIL colleagues, because, as you know, I mean, they are currently working under quite challenging and difficult conditions. I met with several of our peacekeepers who had been injured during a number of incidents. I met with the Sri Lankan peacekeepers, Indonesian and Austrian peacekeepers, and thankfully, they're all doing well. They have recovered, but I was really impressed by their resilience, their commitment, their dedication to the duty, and I found it really heartening and indeed, I mean, very moving to see that there is such a degree of commitment from our colleagues in UNIFIL. So that was the first objective. The second objective was to see how we can continue and UNIFIL can continue to do what it is currently doing under these very challenging and difficult conditions. In other words, as you know, UNIFIL remains in all its positions, and it is also carrying out a number of activities. Of course, it is limited as a result of the current environment, but UNIFIL continues to, first of all, carry out resupplying activities. These are very essential, of course, to make sure that we can continue the presence in all the positions. It does continue as well a number of activities in support to the population, at least those civilians who remain in the area, and that include support to humanitarian assistance, support to medical evacuation, as well as supporting movement of people whenever they need to move from one place to another. Now, for us to do that, for us to be able to do that, then we obviously need to be in contact, in regular contact, with both the Lebanese Armed Forces and the IDF. And that is the case. The liaison mechanism continues to work. General Lassaro continues to be in touch with his counterpart on the Lebanese Armed Forces side, and on the IDF side, the liaison branch, the so-called liaison branch, is working. And as you know, I also make a point of continuing the interaction with the leadership, both in Lebanon and Israel, and of course here in New York. That is very important because we rely on these mechanisms and on these regular interaction to make sure that we achieve the degree of deconfliction that we need to pursue these activities. I'm not saying that we're getting everything we want, but up to now, as you've seen, UNIFIL has been able to remain in all its position. Now, having said this, though, there continues to be incidents, and of course they are of great concern. I use the opportunity of my visit to remind all the parties of their obligation to protect the safety and security of the peacekeepers. We have registered even recently today additional incidents, and I would read, to be specific and precise, the latest. While our immediate concern is for an immediate end of the hostilities, we're also preparing for the day after. Okay, I will do that later. Sorry, I'm reading the wrong paper. I remain concerned about ongoing hostilities between Hezbollah and the Israeli Defense Forces. UNIFIL peacekeepers report continued clashes, exchange of fire, as well as airstrikes. Again today, and I'm coming to the incident I would register today, UNIFIL reports 3 separate incidents impacting peacekeepers in southern Lebanon. This morning, a patrol moving south from UN Position 9-1 to UN Position 641 encountered a roadblock in the village of Kherbet Selem. While bypassing the obstacle, the patrol came under small arms fire from an unknown individual. The patrol managed to continue along the scheduled route without sustaining any casualties. In a second separate incident, 4 peacekeepers sustained minor injuries when an artillery shell exploded with the UN Position 542 near Ramyeh. The mission made a stop-fire request and is ascertaining the projectile's trajectory. The injured personnel were subsequently transferred to UNP 566 for medical treatment. In the third incident, UNIFIL Sector West headquarters in Shama was impacted by 5 rockets, which struck the maintenance workshop. Although it caused heavy damage to the workshop, no peacekeepers were injured. This was the second time UNIFIL base was impacted by the ongoing clashes in the area in less than a week. 155 live artillery shell hit the base on 15 November. So needless to say that we remind all parties of their obligation to ensure the safety and security of UN personnel property and to respect the inviolability of United Nations premises at all times. So that is just to highlight that what I was just saying, that is that we continue to have incidents that are putting at risk our peacekeepers, and again, 4 injured peacekeepers. I believe, thankfully, no serious injuries, but still, that is, I believe, very reflective of the kind of situation in which our peacekeepers are operating, and the credit really goes to them in terms of their resilience and dedication. So that is the second objective. The third objective of the visit was to look at the way forward. We all hope that the diplomatic efforts that are currently ongoing would lead to a positive outcome. I think you're aware of the recent development and the back and forth with the U.S. envoy, Amos Hochstein, the involvement of various member states, the United States, France, and their commitment to push those diplomatic efforts. What we want to do and what is within our control and within our responsibility is to look at how, in a context of a cessation of hostilities, then UNIFIL could be adapted to play its role to the extent possible. And here we're working on developing our own set of ideas, and we'll be looking forward to sharing those in more details with the parties and the stakeholders. I think there are important prerequisites, which are, and this is a message that I share with the parties, the genuine political will to implement Resolution 1701. We proceed under the assumption that Resolution 1701 will remain the political framework for a settlement. I believe that there has been no questioning from any of the parties of that resolution. But then, in addition to keeping Resolution 1701 as a political framework, any meaningful role for UNIFIL will have to depend on, again, the existence of strong commitment, political will to implement Resolution 1701. And that would, I believe, include a very serious commitment to UNIFIL's freedom of movement, because, as you know, the freedom of movement of UNIFIL has been in the past severely limited. Now, having said this, we are looking at how UNIFIL could be potentially adapted in terms of its footprint, its presence, the capacities that would be, maybe the additional capacities that would be required given the environment in which UNIFIL would be operating. Potentially the use of technology, which is something that brings us very directly to the issue of compliance, because using technology can make a difference, but it also depends on the extent to which that would be accepted, and acceptance means really, or reflects compliance there. We're looking at the extent to which we could provide support to the Lebanese armed forces, because the deployment of the Lebanese armed forces in southern Lebanon in the context of cessation of hostilities is a critical element of a settlement, and we, of course, welcome the decision that was made by the Lebanese authorities in terms of additional recruitment, and we also welcome the support that is being extended by a number of member states. Indeed, the Paris conference produced quite a good outcome when it comes to pledges, in addition to supporting the humanitarian assistance, but good result in terms of pledges in support of the Lebanese armed forces. But we believe that UNIFIL could also play a role in providing support to the Lebanese armed forces, and particularly in the early stages. And we're also looking at how UNIFIL could potentially play a role in supporting the return of the civilian population and the rebuilding efforts. Of course, not a central role. I mean, there would be certainly a massive effort that will be required, but we believe that in some areas there are a number of things that UNIFIL can be supporting. And of course, we also look at how the tripartite mechanism, which has been useful over the past years, and including in helping to move forward on the delineating the blue line, various territorial issues there, how the tripartite mechanism could be made more active and relevant. So these are some of the few issues that we are looking at. Again, we believe that we need to be prepared to have our own ideas and proposals in terms of how UNIFIL could continue to play a role. Of course, we make it very clear that the responsibility to implement Resolution 1701 lies with the parties. It is not for UNIFIL to implement, and certainly not to enforce Resolution 1701, but that supportive role is very important. There is a lot of substance in that supporting role, and we want to make sure that UNIFIL would be up to the task when the day comes, hopefully soon rather than late, because, as you know, continuation of these hostilities is devastating in terms of losses of life, in terms of destruction. I have seen those destruction firsthand when I was in the region, in the area, destructions of villages, southern Lebanon, close to the Blue Line, and also the quite significant destruction in northern Israel. And of course, you're all aware of the number of people who are displaced in Lebanon and also in Israel. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Valeria?
Thank you, Steph. Thank you so much for this press conference on behalf of the United Nations Correspondent Association. It's Valeria Robeco from ANSA Newswire. My question is, the Lebanese government and Hezbollah have given a sort of green light in principles with some reservation on the US peace plan for the ceasefire in Lebanon. Do you think this plan could really be sustainable, and what are the possible issues for implementing the ceasefire? Thank you so much.
I can take, well, depends on how.
If we could do one, I think, if
Okay,
you don't
good.
mind. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we are aware of these sort of pronouncements from Lebanese authorities and Hezbollah. I think it's encouraging, but as you know very well. I mean, it's a negotiation process. So, as long as we're not there, with the support and endorsement and agreement from both parties, then, there is uncertainty in terms of the likelihood of an outcome anytime soon. The one thing that I made very clear to my interlocutors is this. Among other things, of course, with the prerequisite of a genuine commitment to implement Resolution 1701 is also that this freedom of movement part, and the extent to which freedom of movement would be granted would be reflective of the degree of commitment. And I made it very clear that, that we couldn't operate with access denials, hostile behaviors. This private property issue would have to be clarified, and so on and so forth. And of course, obviously there would have to be no violation from the other side as well, air violations and all kind of violations. I believe that was well understood and confirmed and supported by my interlocutors, including in Lebanon. But then again, as far as the process, the negotiating process, then, I mean, yes, those signals are encouraging, but it's clear that we're not there yet. We're very supportive of these efforts, of course.
Thank you. Edie?
Thank you very much, Mr. Lacroix. You spoke to both the Israelis and the Lebanese. Who do you blame for all of the incidents that have happened since you left? And how frustrated are you that these attacks on UNIFIL are still taking place despite the deconfliction mechanism and all of the UN efforts to stop them?
Right. Well, obviously it's frustrating to see that we continue to have those incidents. Now, whether they're, I wouldn't say all of them are intentional. Some of them we know, when, as happened today, I mean, a patrol is being fired at, and obviously it's intentional. I don't have the elements, the specific elements as to exactly who could be potentially responsible for that. So, as long as we don't have more specific from UNIFIL, I'll refrain from comment. But what we've seen in the past is really incident coming from both sides, and it's. Like I say, in some cases it's clearly intentional because we have the element. We even have some videos that suggest, more than suggest the intentionality. In other cases, it's hard to tell. Probably many of them are not intentional. And I would also, I have another category which I call semi-intentional, i.e. if military activities are carried out in the vicinity of UN position, then that is putting UN peacekeepers in danger. That is putting them at risk, and this is what we impress upon all parties. They have the responsibility to do everything that they should do for the purpose of protecting peacekeepers. And it would also include not carrying out those military activities in the very close proximity of UN position.
Thank you. Javier, then Sylviane.
Mr. Lacroix, Javier Otazu from FNU Service. Argentina has withdrawn their troops from UNIFIL, only 3 people, but all of them. Have they provided any reason or explanation? And is there any other country that has followed the same pattern, or do you fear that it can set a precedent? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Argentina has withdrawn, I believe, 4 officers from UNIFIL and Observer Group Lebanon. It's the prerogative of any member states to make that decision. So we take note of this. I would add that Argentina is and continues to be a valued troop contributing country. There are Argentinian peacekeepers in other operations, particularly in Cyprus, where they have a company in Sector West of Cyprus, and also Argentina is providing the helicopter unit in Cyprus, which also is very useful. Just to say that we take note of that decision, and we continue to value Argentinian peacekeepers' contribution in the operations where they continue to be deployed. Now, in terms of the commitment and dedication and steadfastness of the troop contributing country, I continue to see a very strong degree of commitment to remaining in UNIFIL and supporting UNIFIL. I have briefed the ambassador of the troop contributing country in Beirut, and again, I had exactly the same feedback from them and the same impression. But obviously, we make a point of maintaining a very, very close contact and interaction with the troop contributing countries, and I really want to pay tribute to them, because without their commitment and really the support of the whole international community, which we saw from various statements at the highest level, from at the Paris conference, from the Security Council, and then again recently, just before I left to the region, another statement by the Security Council. We feel really heartened by this very strong level of support.
Excuse me, but have they provided any reason for?
No.
Sylviane?
Good afternoon, Mr. Lacroix.
Okay.
I'm Sylviane Zeil from L'Orient Le Jour. You just got back from Lebanon and from Israel. In Lebanon, can you describe in your own terms what you have seen in the south of Lebanon as destructions, as powerless people going everywhere? My first question. My second question is there is a lot of misinformation regarding UNIFIL, and how are you planning to fix this misinformation? The third thing is there is an idea of a buffer zone in the UNIFIL, buffer zone between the south of. Is it possible to have it? Thank you.
Yes, I mean, the level of destruction is obviously very high. I saw a number of villages which appear to be, largely or maybe totally destroyed. And obviously the number of civilians who remain in the area in southern Lebanon is very low, relative to the before the hostilities. So basically, two things for us. One is that that makes our call for cessation of hostilities even more important, and our determination to continue calling for cessation of hostility even stronger. So that's number one. Number two, whatever UNIFIL can do to continue supporting those civilians who remain in the area, we are, and UNIFIL is completely determined to continue working with the LAF, working with our partners, agencies. And then number three, I mentioned the extent to which UNIFIL in the future could support reconstruction. And I'm not saying, UNIFIL would certainly not play the central role of that, but I believe that if we can use the capacity of UNIFIL, at that stage, post-cessation of hostilities, and I think that would be beneficial to all. Having said this, though, I also saw quite a serious level of destruction in northern Israel, and with a village that I visited, obviously also quite seriously affected. So then again, that is really an additional. We've always been quite determined that these hostilities have to stop, because obviously the level of devastation, the level of destruction, displacement, losses of life is really appalling. Now, your question regarding buffer zone first, and unclear exactly what the post-cessation of hostilities would be. So that what we're seeing are obviously ground operation by the IDF that are particularly focused on these areas in the vicinity of the Blue Line with significant destructions explained by the IDF, as you know, by their assessment that most of these houses, villages, were places where weapons, were to be found. But I hesitate to use buffer zone in the sense that it is not very clear, the extent to which it's a stated objective, and so I think we'll have to wait until, and hopefully soon, what the agreement would be. What we are committed to is supporting Resolution 1701, and Resolution 1701 is about the deployment of the Lebanese armed forces in the whole territory and the whole of southern Lebanon. That is to say, asserting the assertion of Lebanese sovereignty in all its territory, right? Which I'm not sure it's very compatible with any sense of buffer zone. I don't believe it is.
Thank you. Gabby, please.
Thanks, Gabriel
One
Zondo.
question, please.
Yep.
Thank you. In interest of time. Thank you.
Gabriel Zondo from Al Jazeera English. Actually, did have one quick question. Could you just characterize, Mr. Lacroix, your meetings with the Israeli officials? Specifically, they've put demands on UNIFIL previously. Are those demands still in place about moving back from positions, and have they placed any new demands on UNIFIL? Thank you.
Actually, what we emphasize really is what I emphasize is, in addition, of course, to our call for cessation of hostilities and diplomatic efforts and all this, because I also met with senior officials from Foreign Affairs, but it's the importance of the deconfliction, the liaison, this interaction, which, as I indicated, continues to take place at every level. I haven't heard from the Israeli side a repetition of the request to the effect that UNIFIL should vacate those positions in the vicinity of the Blue Line. I took note of that. But then, obviously, for us to continue to preserve that presence in those positions and also continue the activities that I mentioned earlier, then we continue to need these liaison and deconfliction mechanism. So that was really the emphasis in our discussion.
Deji, then Adla.
Hi, Mr. Lacroix here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Xu Deji with China Central Television. Also, a very quick question. Just now, you mentioned that you're trying to exploring more extra capacity of UNIFIL in the future. What extra capacity are you referring to? And have you talked this to your interlocutors in both Israel and Lebanon? And what's their response? Thank you.
Yes, we're currently in the process to sort of, let's say, elaborate on these ideas. In terms of capacities, we're not necessarily talking numbers, actually. I think it's more appropriate to talk about needs and then, what are the implications in terms of capacities. I believe that the post-hostilities environment in southern Lebanon will be characterized by a very significant presence of improvised explosive devices, remnants of war, mines, and we're already working with some troop contributing countries to expand the UNIFIL capacity in that area.
You mean more people?
Well, if you bring more mine clearance capacity, then you bring more people, inevitably. But, we're not starting from how much or how many. We're starting from what the needs are. My sense is also that we would probably need more engineering capacities. Well, I mean, many roads have been sort of damaged, destroyed, and just for the purpose of being able to move, for the purpose of being able to support the Lebanese armed forces, which itself will have to increase those kind of capacity, also supporting the population, maybe playing a role in supporting rebuilding. I believe that it's likely that we would need more of that as well. I mentioned technology with the sensitivities, but at the same time, the potential importance of these devices, particularly for the purpose of bringing about more effectiveness in the observation role of UNIFIL, which is critical to its mandate. So these are the kind of thing that we're currently looking at. We share those ideas in sort of broad, sort of general terms with our interlocutors, and of course we'll be doing more and more detail as we move forward.
Do they agree?
I heard no objection. Then again, it's all in the context of post hostilities, and you know, the parties may have additional ideas in terms of what role they see for UNIFIL, and we'll be also hearing them, of course.
Sorry, just David and Nabil, and then we have to shut it down, unfortunately.
Yes, David Kattenberg.
Your microphone.
David Kattenberg with the online journal Mondoweiss. Can you comment on Israel's use of white phosphorus and cluster munitions in Lebanon, and more generally speaking, Israel's compliance with international humanitarian and human rights law, specifically cluster munitions and white phosphorus? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, on white phosphorus, then you know these are, to the best of my knowledge, which is of course not unlimited, but these are not prohibited as such. But what is prohibited is the use in civilian areas, you know, the undiscriminate use. Maybe other people would speak in more sort of precise legal terms about that. And of course, our appeal really to all is that international humanitarian law should be respected, that civilians should not be targeted or should be protected in the conduct of military operation. That is a constant call and appeal to all. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is that these calls are not always heeded. I think the reality is clear for all of us to see.
Has Israel used white phosphorus and cluster munitions?
As far as white phosphorus is concerned, yes, I believe there has been use of white phosphorus, and then again, our position is that there should not be a use in condition where civilian population is potentially affected by that. Now, in terms of the specifics, in other words, the conditions of in which those cases occur, then the UNIFIL has conducted investigations. I don't have the elements of these investigations, which are ongoing, but of course, as with any other incident, UNIFIL is carrying out investigation.
And cluster munitions?
I'll have to revert to that.
Nabil, and then we'll close it. Thank you.
Thank you. Nabil Abi Saab, Al Arabi TV station. And regarding the arms embargo, do you want to see a bigger role for UNIFIL to implement the arms embargo? And does this include maybe the airport and the port of Beirut? Are you engaged in any talks about any maybe observation activities for the UNIFIL in the port and the airport? Thank you.
Thank you. No, the answer is no, and we haven't heard any suggestion to that effect from anyone at this stage, and of course we're talking about something that would be very, very significantly different from what UNIFIL is doing and is mandated for. UNIFIL is mandated south of the Litany for very specific tasks and purposes. So the answer is no. At this stage, this is not being discussed, and I haven't heard any suggestion to that effect regarding UNIFIL's potential role.
Jean-Pierre, you're released.
Thank you.
For some, we hope you will come back, but thank you very much
Thank you very much.
for doing this
Bye. Have a good
briefing.
day.
Much appreciated.